The dopamine detox. Let's get right into it. This section of the challenge was by far the most difficult area for me to start, but it was also the area that had the most profound impact on me once I got going. Avoiding those dopamine fueled activities such as social media, technology, caffeine, energizing drinks, and music, it was difficult to say the least because essentially I had everything taken away from me that made up a normal, typical day. I essentially had to learn how to focus without that artificial stimulation that comes from all of those dopamine fueled activities. When I first started this section of the challenge, I could feel that I was becoming more agitated without my normal daily pleasures, which is completely understandable because I was trying to change so much in a short period of time. Maybe I was less patient, less loving, maybe a little less kind at the time, but after about a week or so, I could literally feel my mind and my brain starting to shift and starting to reset. I learned to enjoy the time that I had away from that constant distraction and that constant stimulation because number one, I was able to accomplish much, much more than I normally would have since I was able to maintain my focus for longer periods of time. And number two, I was a lot more calm. What I found was I didn't need that constant need for stimulation anymore, and I was a lot more in the moment than I had been previously. I was a lot more engaged in what I was doing and with others around me. I was even able to take a step back and see how dopamine fueled society is as a whole. The constant need for scrolling on cell phones or the constant need to find something to satisfy an uneasy feeling, uneasy emotion, uneasy situation, the distraction, the willingness to be distracted because we want that and we don't want to be in that moment anymore. We want to be somewhere else to make us feel better. And we want the dopamine to help with that. I think everybody should try this at least once in their life because it made me much more aware of what I was doing throughout the day, and it gave me more of a leveled head because I could take a step back and I could think to myself, is this something that I necessarily want to do? Am I avoiding something that I should really be taking care of right now? Speaking of being more aware, I even remember that while I'll be working or studying on a particular subject, ideas, as I was studying, these ideas would just flow to me. Since my mind wasn't focused on multiple things at once, it wasn't focused on what song am I going to listen to next. It wasn't focused on did somebody text me? Do I have another email? Should I load up Instagram or YouTube and watch a short little video? It wasn't focused on that, and I think that's why the ideas were able to flow more freely. And this is something that I had never experienced before. If you decide to start a dopamine detox such as this, my number one recommendation would be to set your cell phone away from you if your work allows it. I found that while having a cell phone can be a great source of knowledge and a great source of power, it can also be very damaging to a mind that's trying to stay focused at the task at hand. It's always there and it's constantly pulling your attention away because maybe you're always thinking about, do I have an email? Should I respond to this person on Facebook? Should I check my Instagram messages? Things such as this. So in this way, having a cell phone can be a very bad and damaging thing if you use it in the wrong way. Once I intentionally got rid of my cell phone, just setting it to the side or setting it in the other room, my productivity actually went through the roof. And I came to the realization that while I did this, my mind also became more quiet. It was able to stay more focused on what I was doing. I was able to be in the moment a lot easier. And that's why those ideas, they could just flow to me much easier than they could before. And I could also not only think about what I was working on in that moment, but I could also focus on my inner thoughts. And what occurred to me is that you have to be aware of your innermost thoughts because if you don't, then how will you ever understand what's holding you back or what's even working for you? I must say that I do think that my cell phone is probably the biggest source of distraction that I have here in my apartment. It's not like I would say to myself as I would be studying a particular subject that maybe I should go read a book. My books are not the biggest sources of distraction, although I wish they were. I mean, I would say to myself that I should probably be reading for this challenge, for challenge number 4 in particular. But normally it's more so along the lines of I should go on my cell phone, I should load up my email, even though I know that I probably don't have any new emails. It's just a way for me to temporarily distract myself. So once I became more aware of how my cell phone was affecting me, I could take back the control that the cell phone was having over me, and I became more productive, I became more calm, I became less anxious. I was actually sleeping better just because I didn't have my cell phone there right next to me and I wasn't watching videos right before bed, which allowed me to sleep much more deep than I was before. So as much as I love having a cell phone, I think that a lot of people, they're not under control of their own cell phones. I think the cell phone is in control of them, which is obviously not a good thing. I really hope that more people can understand this and they can take back that control and they can take back what the cell phone is taking away from them, which is their free will. The other areas of the challenge were difficult for me to implement as well, such as not having caffeine as well as not listening to music. I was mainly concerned that I was going to get a huge migraine after I took away the caffeine, and as it turns out, I did not experience any side effects. At least bad side effects. I was prepared for the first couple of days. I had some ibuprofen because I unfortunately know how caffeine withdrawal works. And within the first day, first couple of days, first 3 days, normally what happens is I get a huge headache for around a couple of days, and I did not want that to happen. But one of the good side effects that happened to me is I was able to sleep deeper than I was previously, and I was actually starting to have dreams when I went to sleep. So to me, that means the quality of the sleep that I was getting was better. So I was able to have more focus during the day, and I was able to get a lot more done. Not listening to music was fine for the most part, but in my mind, I have an association of getting work done while listening to music. Obviously, I can get work done not listening to music, but for some reason in my mind, I have those two associated together. So for the first few days, it was difficult for me to do because it was something that was not normal. But as I got going, it got easier for me, and I found that I was able to focus even better not listening to music than I was with listening to music. So I think that came from not thinking about the next song that I was going to listen to, which obviously is a distraction in its own, because when you choose another song, you have to go onto your phone to that application, and in that application, there are other things that can distract you and pull your attention away from what it is that you're trying to get done. So, not having this every single day, I was able to focus better and I was able to get a lot more done because of that. One of the bad things about not listening to music is that I found that I use music as a way to drown out my environment because we live in a pretty noisy place and there's a lot of cars, a lot of motorcycles, there's pigeons, there's people yelling outside, dogs barking. So typically what I do is I use music to drown that out and I can use that to focus even better. So I remember as I was going through this part of the challenge, I was saying to myself, man, it would be so nice to just listen to something right now so I don't have to listen to what's going on outside. But after about a week or so, I couldn't hear those noises anymore. It's something that I got used to. The more you hear it, I think the more your mind just makes it normalized and it doesn't become much of a distraction anymore. So the first few days were difficult, but as I got going, it became easier and I became even more productive not listening to music. I learned a lot in this challenge. And if you go to my blog, you'll see that I wrote a lot more in the lessons learned section for this challenge than I have in others. And the reason for that is because of that clear thinking that I was talking about earlier. What I realized along the way is that these kinds of behaviors, these dopamine fueled activities, and these stimulations, these can all be used to your benefit, but only if you're in control of them. Don't let them control you, because the things that we own eventually end up owning us, as Tyler Durden would say. When you take a step back from it all, realize that that dependency is there because there's a part of you where you don't feel absolutely confident in your own abilities. There's a reason why you are trying to distract yourself from that moment, from that activity, from that work project that you're trying to get done. There's a reason that you are allowing that. And once you become more self aware, then that's when you can really start to take that control back from that thing that's distracting you and put it back into the work. But first, you have to be self aware. First, you have to understand that this is actually happening, which a lot of people do not do. They don't realize the kinds of habits that they have in their life, the destructive ones, the things that are just rote behavior, where they don't really pay that much attention. They don't realize how detrimental these kinds of activities and thought behaviors are. So, my recommendation is to do some kind of journaling or another form of activity to make you become more self aware about the way that you think. And I really do think that a dopamine detox is a great way to get there. Once you take all of those things away that used to give you stimulation, that used to distract you, that's when you can realize, like, wow, I was really addicted to everything around me. I was addicted to things that I didn't even know that I was addicted to. And now that I'm free from those kinds of behaviors and those thought patterns and those habits, now I can do anything that I want to do. I'm much more self aware now, and the sky's the limit, honestly. You just got to take a step back and you have to understand the way that you think. All right, that's it, guys. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to see me attempt other challenges such as this to try and be a better person, and as a result, showing you how to be a better person as well. All right, that's it. Have a good one. See you next time.